On today's episode of the SPEMA Council podcast, for the first time in a long time, we've got a guest on one of our episodes. It's our season 3 premiere. In this episode, myself and our co-host, Madeline Grossi, our podcast administrator. For those who didn't see the intro episode about a week ago, we brought on Brenley Shapiro. Brenley is a mental performance coach for the Arizona Coyotes and the Peterborough Petes, and she has years upon years of experience in the sports psychology field. She talked about a lot of different things, including how she got into the sports psychology field, the process she uses to interact with athletes and to get them to the next level, her work with the Coyotes, her work with the Petes, and also some tips for all you listeners to stay sharp during the school year, as September is so close from now. It's going to be a great episode to kick off season 3. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. This is the SPEMA Council podcast. How's it going, everybody? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I invite you to pull up a chair, sit back, and relax, and welcome you to the season premiere of the SPEMA Council podcast. Man, it feels good to say those words again. I know I said in the intro video, but leading up to an episode with the guest, like it just feels so good to say those words again, and to be finally back delivering content to you all you loyal listeners. I'm your host, as always, William Ord, and we have a great episode lined up, which we're going to talk about. One that features a prolific guest that maybe some of SPEMA students have seen before in one of our speaker series. That may give you a hint right there, and also to hit the theme home of maximizing your mindset, which this guest honestly she epitomizes to a T. But before we get to it, let's meet the co-host for this episode, our very own podcast administrator, Madeline Grossi, coming to us from, I believe, Keswick, but correct me if I'm wrong. Maddie, it's a pleasure to once again have you on the show, and again to be a part of the pod squad this year.
That's right. I'm tuning in from Keswick. It's great to be back and officially be part of the pod squad this year. I know last year I was a first-year rep for SPEMA Council and had the privilege to co-host with you a few times, and that's what made me want to work with you even more this Will and be the podcast administrator. So we're excited for a good season, and we sure got a good episode for you.
Don't be too quick. A few episodes from now, and then you might be sick of me. But again, like I tell you, I had you on a couple of times, and I couldn't believe that those were your first 2 episodes podcasting, because I was thinking she sounds like she's done at least 10 or 12. But again, glad to have you on, and glad to have you on for the premiere, where we had Brenley Shapiro from the Arizona Coyotes and the Peterborough Petes. She's their mental performance coach there, and she has had years upon years of experience in the sport, in the psychology field. Just an incredible episode. I mean, like there were so many good points in there. I'm not sure where to start. Like,
I think it really took flight at the last question. That's where I was writing down all my notes. I think Brenley has some great things to say about working with junior hockey players for the Peterborough Petes, and as well as professionals in the NHL with the Arizona Coyotes. I think she had some really great things to say about that. But also when you just listen to her talk about like everyday life and us as students and regular people, you don't have to be a professional athlete. Everything really transfers over to everybody. And I really took a lot of stuff that she said, and I'm going to use that this year for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I finally found some specifics after thinking, but there's so much stuff that that you can take to with from this. I mean, skip to any timestamp, and I guarantee you will find something of value that you can that you either be interested in or you can use in your everyday life. I guess to touch on a couple of specifics, we'll talk about her work with the Coyotes in a bit. But what I found interesting was like is her work with the Petes, and working with players who she has to balance three sort of stages of minds, from the rookies who are just trying to make it onto the roster the next season, to the more experienced players who are competing for professional spots, to the veterans who are either going to youth sports or figuring out what the heck they're even going to do after hockey, when they've been in a sport where that's all they've known since they first laced up a pair of skates.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was an awesome way to just kind of look at all the different age groups that she deals with. And especially, like she was saying, in the NHL, you can deal with kids who are 19, who are just coming into the NHL, and you can deal with adults who are 30 years old still in the NHL. So she definitely works with a wide variety of age groups through her work, but obviously she knows what she's doing, and she has a great way to really dive deep down into their mind and see how they're doing and what they're feeling. And she really uses all of her resources to make sure that she can help them perform to the best of their ability.
And her energy too. Like that's the one thing that stood out throughout this was her energy, for passion, for doing what she does. Like,
exactly.
For the listeners, find a career, do your best to find a career field that at least that gives you a high level of passion, like Brenley does, because throughout all their answers, she cares a whole lot, because she's seen it all. She wants to help people. She wants to put people in a position to succeed. She talked about the process that she uses to help players. She talked about some exercises that she did with the Arizona Coyotes to stimulate them even during COVID. And there was a lot of key points that you guys can take advantage of. It's toward the end of the episode, so you're probably going to have to listen through all the great knowledge beforehand to get to that point. But that's another thing that stuck out for me was her everlasting passion for what she does.
Yeah, she sure has a very determined mindset, and she really wants to help all of her athletes as best as she can. So she was a really great first guest to have on for our season 3 premiere, and we're really looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a perfect point to send it off to Brenley and what she had to say for this episode. But before we go, any final thoughts, Maddy, that you want to touch on before we send her over?
Just, I think it's important to mention we have one more member of the pod squad who is not here today. His name is Jackson Pretley, and he manages all of our social medias. So he is here with us, and he is going to be posting all this stuff. So we are a team, and we're really excited to really give you some great content this year for season 3. So let's take it away, Will.
Yeah, you'll obviously you'll definitely see Jackson on a future episode. You've already seen him in the intro, but just so you didn't just in the intro episode, but just so you didn't forget, Pod Squad's a team of three, and for this year, and again, we're looking forward to giving you. Like I said, the intro, we're looking forward to giving you great content that you can learn from, but also, you can sit back and enjoy, watch us talk sports biz and shoot the breeze with some great guests. So with that, let's head over to Brenley Shapiro, mental performance coach for the Arizona Coyotes and the Peterborough Petes. Enjoy, folks. All right, to kick off season 3 of the SPEMA Council podcast, we have quite the guest on for this season's premiere. Her resume reads like a laundry list. She's had years and years of experience in the sports psychology field. Notably, she's the founder and president of Heads Up Mind Gym. She's been a sports psychology and performance consultant for the Hill Academy, and she currently works for both the Peterborough Petes of the Ontario Hockey League and the Arizona Coyotes of the National Hockey League as their mental performance coach. SPEMA students, you may recognize her from a speaker series that we had last year. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Brenley Shapiro. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Brenley. To start off the episode, we've created a new de facto first word for the SPEMA Council podcast. Last year it was what makes your story unique. This year we've sort of tailored it to sort of reflect the theme that we've had we're going to establish for season 3. So, Brenley, what mindset have you adopted to forge a successful career?
I would say I almost feel like a broken record because I say this all the time, but really for me, it comes down to the mindset that I have had all boils down to the ability and trust in myself to figure it out. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, every level that I hit, every time I tried something new, and I really do tell people, like, half the time I had no idea what I was doing. And it's kind of that way every time you're gonna try something new or forge ahead or hit a new level. Like, you don't know until you gain experience. So the biggest thing was just being able to move forward and trusting in myself that I was going to figure it out. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a book out. The book is called Fearless. And so that really summarizes the whole theme of everything that I've done, which it's not about the absence of fear, but it's about being able to say, I'm afraid and I can do it anyways. So that's really been my mindset. Just be fearless, just go for it. And as you go, if you put in the work and you do the right things and you trust yourself to figure it out, you'll probably figure it out. And that's really what I did.
Brenley, I think that's a great point. I think that's also something that I kind of live by. Is that you're never really going to know unless you try. So that's kind of what I bring with me everywhere I go, whether that was in high school, whether that's first year university, being online. You never know what it's going to be like unless you try. So that's why I joined SPEMA Council, and that's why I'm on the podcast now. So that's really something that's helped me out.
Great message for first years coming into the program this year, even second years. Throw yourself into something. You never know where it's going to lead you. I tell you, I can distinctly remember, throwing myself into this podcasting thing. What was it? 2.5 years ago. Volunteering to help out with this, and at the time when I asked, it was to a guy that now I know really well, but at the time I didn't even. It was the first time I met the guy that was the host, and And it was a risk because I didn't know the first thing about podcasting back then. But if you take advantage of it, take the bull by the horns, and really dedicate yourself to your craft. If it's a thing that you're passionate about, then the world's your oyster. And I mean, I'm a little bit gobsmacked to get to this point. It's like, we're at season 3. Good God.
That's what happens. You know what? Every professional was once an amateur. You got to start somewhere, right?
100%.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I think that brings us into our next question. So the theme for this year's season is maximize your mindset, but you've taken this term quite literally as a mental performance coach. So we're wondering, where did that drive for going into the sports psychology field come from? Was it from university studies or from a specific experience you had elsewhere?
Yeah, a little bit different for me. I kind of took a non-traditional route into this field. Although, and that being said too, it's really a growing field, but definitely my journey has been a little bit non-traditional. Growing up, I always had an extreme passion for sport. I loved the game of hockey. And I did not have the opportunity to play it when I was a little girl growing up, but I loved it. And I ended up playing soccer because I didn't get the opportunity to play hockey. I ended up playing on a provincial team. I went to the Canadian Nationals. That's kind of my claim to fame in sports as an athlete. But so I always had a passion for sport, and I also had a passion for helping people. It was just something that I just always loved to do. So through university, I ended up going into the field of psychology and really general psychology. I ended up doing graduate school, my master's degree, all clinical counseling, because that's what I wanted to do for my profession. And when I finished university, I started in a general counseling practice, so not sports psychology. But my kind of thing was working with people's thinking and their emotions and their behaviors. And that was sort of my expertise in my practice. So fast forward a few years, had a couple kids, and I had 2 boys, and of course they were going to be hockey players because I never got to play. So basically it was kind of through their eyes. It was a really interesting experience to go through the world of sport almost as a parent and to see it through my kids' eyes. And I guess, in competitive sport, I started to see a lot of things, like a lot of craziness. And, from what I did for my profession, and then watching my children and trying to support them going through it, I just felt that there was so much pressure and expectations put on young children in the world of sport. And
100%.
Yeah, and I just thought, sport's supposed to be fun, and there's so many amazing life lessons that, not everybody's going to be a professional athlete. In fact, much fewer than will be. But I was just seeing sad, stressed out kids all over the place. And so it really got me thinking, how can I help my own children be great and gain the experiences that I want them to have out of sport? And then how do I help other people be great and thrive in the world of sport? And I think it just really stemmed from that passion that I wanted to make a difference, because I saw people suffering and at such young ages. And so I finally connected my 2 worlds, like my counseling practice and then my passion for sport and the need that I saw. And when I brought them all together, it was like I found my thing. Like it was really, that was it for me. And it was actually through one of my son's coaches who found out what I did also and thought, we chatted about it. He's like, you really cannot develop an elite athlete without addressing the psychological side of the game. And so I started doing some workshops in a hockey camp. That's really how it started. And it went really, really well. And so that kind of built into more workshops. And then parents started becoming interested, and they kind of came up to me and they said, they listened and they loved it. Would I work with their kids? And so I started getting more and more athletes into my general counseling practice. And like I said, I loved it. Like it was my thing. I was super passionate about it. And then I actually just continued to do more training. Like I told you guys, just figure it out. I knew I wanted to blend the worlds. So I learned a lot. I researched a lot. I took more courses, more training. And then, like I said, I put the two worlds together. And one day I really took a leap of faith because I was seeing more and more athletes and I knew that this was my thing. And I actually heard they were opening up a brand new hockey rink in Toronto. And I thought, you know what, if I'm ever going to do this, like this is my shot. And I literally left my counseling practice and I opened up an office in a hockey rink, which is like a little bit crazy. And some days I sat there thinking like, oh my God, what did I just do? But, you know, trust yourself to figure it out. And, you know, one athlete led to another athlete and another athlete. And within some time, I guess I really did feel a void because, you know, my practice got to the point where I had like a 3-month waiting list to get in and see me. And so it's really about combining those worlds, like my expertise in thinking, feelings, behaviors. And I literally just applied how that would work with sport and performance. And that's how I began.
Yeah. I mean, the fascinating thing about, how you got into it is like, I think when you were seeing those stressed out faces and, I've experienced it firsthand. Like I didn't get up to AAA. I got as high as AA, but even there, I could see players who, they were treated like you got to score 2 goals today. You got to get at least 5 hits or else it's going to be a long car ride home. And I get that, you sort of had, a bit of an epiphany as to, what the onus of sport really is. Is it to produce cogs in the wheel for junior hockey in the pro circuits? You could argue it, but that's only a small margin. The rest, it's more about developing physical literacy and developing developing skills and experiences through sport that they can use use for life. And it's great that you've taken this, you decide to take this huge step to help athletes to ensure that beyond the coaching that you do, that they keep coming back to the rink. And that's that's the main goal for all sports, is especially hockey. For those that discover it, for those that maybe have taken it up late. How can we, as sport professionals, how can we shape their experiences, and how can we make them wanting more of it, instead of coming to the rink for 2 weeks and saying, I'll try another sport. This is too much. This is too much pressure for me. So that's a great story, and in a really driven way of how you got into your sports industry niche. Going back onto the lines of working with athletes in your field, you've helped multiple athletes, and not just hockey, but in a variety of different sports as well. What I'm getting is, what general framework do you use to get athletes to the next level? If it's not a general, and you can say no, it's not a general framework. It's it differs for each athlete. But I'm just interested to see what I guess the science is behind that process.
Yeah, it's sort of a blend of a number of things. That's why I say maybe I'm a bit non-traditional, but I also think it's what has made my work so successful. Coming from, I think what makes me really different in this field is that I do have that traditional counseling clinical background. So my work prior was, I was a cognitive behavioral psychotherapist. So that is a big underpinning of the work that I do. And I've blended that in the field of sports psychology. So I really have a big take on that. That is really a big part of how I work with athletes, which, like I said before, is really trying to understand, we're talking about maximizing mindset, but I'm all about people's thinking. So I do like to go a lot deeper to understand the mindset and, what are the predominant themes? What are the underlying beliefs? And, I do a lot of challenging in terms of mindset and really trying to identify unproductive thought processes and how do we shift them to a much more powerful, productive mindset. So that's very big for me. And then that's a blend with, performance psychology, positive psychology, sports psychology. So I kind of pull them all together. And yeah, you're right. With every single athlete, there are different things. But that being said, that's really the underlying framework. It really has a strong blend of cognitive behavioral psychotherapy combined with sports psychology and positive psychology as well. And, as I kind of went through my career too, I really became fascinated sort of with the neurocognitive side of things. So neurocognitive psychology too, I've kind of thrown in. And just a little correction from my introduction, I'm no longer with the Hill Academy, but I run a company called Heads Up High Performance. And one thing we have there is called the Mind Gym, and it's a cognitive training center. So we've brought in the ability to literally train the brain to enhance performance. So there's a blend of that in my work as well.
That's quite the process. I gotta tell you that, it's not, it doesn't seem like it's like just one, it doesn't seem like it's one direction. It's a combination of, different types of psychology that really allows you to target the brain in a comprehensive manner. And I think that's sort of a good way to describe everyone's brain and mental health. It's not a one-way street, and especially during COVID, if you're any type of athlete, and you're missing that rush of adrenaline from just a practice. Yeah. If you're not dealing with it well, sometimes your mind could go one way the other day. The next day your mind could go your mind could go in a different direction. So combining those types of expertise and thinking with developing players seems like you're really setting up each individual client on their own unique success path.
For sure. Everybody's different. I mean, there's common themes, obviously, but if you don't understand the person, like, that is first and foremost. Always first thing I do is really an assessment to understand, and get a really good read on what's going on, what's all the underlying thinking, what's the mindset behind the game, and then we build out a plan from there.
Yeah, and I really love the idea that you've talked about in the last little while, but you started off as a general cognitive psychologist and then kind of brought in all these other aspects. And I think that's a really great thing to bring back to sport management as well, because I think sometimes people get lost in their journey and think, well, I can only be in sport for the rest of my career. And I don't believe that's true. I know it's a passion that we all have, but we can definitely transfer everything that we're learning into the regular business world outside of sport as well. So I really like the idea that you can be in sport management or you can work outside of sport, but you can always tie in things to enhance your career, enhance your journey. So I think that's an awesome point. And obviously you have used hockey as something to enhance your career. And in 2018, you landed a position with the NHL team, the Arizona Coyotes. Given that COVID restrictions have been in play with NHL operations since March of 2020, were there any hurdles to giving the team support throughout the last 2 seasons, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think every single person, no matter who you are as a human being or what career you're in, there's obviously been challenges that everybody has faced with COVID. That being said, I'm grateful for the whole virtual world right now, and maybe it was something that I had stayed more away from. So sometimes you just gotta be forced into something and then get a lot more comfortable with it. So we really managed to be successful, to do the work like this, like via Zoom, virtually. So it really did give me the ability to continue my work, which is amazing. The one thing for me is I'm very much a people person. So it's just missing that human connection. And that would be the biggest challenge. But again, I always try to flip it, that I'm really grateful to have the technology, because years and years ago, we would have not been able to do this. So the ability to stay connected, and we did the best that we could and just did it all virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. I am very much the same type of person. I love being in like a packed room with a whole bunch of people. I mean, I changed high schools in grade 9. I went from this little tiny high school in my hometown to this big, huge high school in Markham that had 1,500 kids. And I absolutely thrived in that type of environment. And I could walk through the halls and say hi to 10 new people every time. So I definitely agree. I've missed that aspect so much, especially out of my first year. But I always do look on the bright side, and I'm happy to have gotten involved and happy to have still been able to do school online. And I'm really looking forward to going down in September and actually being on campus this year.
I bet.
St. Catharines, Niagara, great region. Like, you'll go down in September. Like, you're probably going to be even there, like, not even 48 hours, and you're gonna fall in love with the region, let me tell you. But I mean, like, talk about adaptation for a field of work that sort of relies on the concept of getting genuine connection. So it must have been a new experience, just trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to read these guys? How am I going to read these players when they're in front of me, but I'm in this location, and they're in like Glendale or Scottsdale or wherever they are in Arizona, and you have to try to implement the same techniques and try to see if they can work as well in in-person setting. How honestly, how the players respond to the suggestions you gave them? Was it a bit harder for them when everything was on Zoom?
Surprisingly, I talk about missing the human connection, but surprisingly, it's really been okay. And I think primarily the one-on-one stuff is
right.
You're right. I don't get to see them. So sometimes, you might miss out on some things. I'll talk about creativity, like you just got to get really creative. Sometimes I always like to do activities. I don't want to talk at people all the time. So, sometimes like I'll grab a ball and I'll be like, hey, if I was with you, I'd be throwing this at you right now, like catch it, so we get a little creative and try and have fun. But the one-on-one stuff has actually been okay, even for new players. Like, I feel we've been able to make the connection, and that's been really great. What I found the most challenging was with team workshops, because
right.
At least one-on-one, I can see their face and their facial expressions. And you know what, honestly, I think there's been a safety net in Zoom for the players, because when you're working at really high levels, at the NHL level, there's always a bit of a trust issue that they don't want to see you. Oh, if you're talking to the coach or you're talking to the general manager, like they're worried if they talk to you that, oh no, I hope she's not saying anything. Like I always had to be really mindful of that when I was at the rink, you know, I try to distance myself because they worry really. So I think there's been a safety net in Zoom that they don't feel that it's going back to anybody. So that's actually been really good.
Interesting.
But like I said, the team stuff was harder because I like at least to see people's eyes and facial expression. I really feed off people, and I'm very dynamic when I do a team session. So
right.
I struggled in the team sessions because when I'm presenting slides, you know, you get that little 4-bar person at the side. Yeah. Well, I've got like 25 guys there and I can only see 4 faces. So that was really, really hard for me.
Right.
And not being able to interact and say, hey, what do you think? And you think, and like, the team stuff was hard.
Yeah, that seems to be a definite challenge. You know, when you see only a few faces and you know, maybe guys aren't willing to turn their cameras on.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, going on the topic of working with players and same sport, but different league and you know, and demographics altogether. You also have a role as a mental performance coach with the Ontario Hockey League's Peterborough Petes. What are some of the differences working with junior hockey players to those with multiple seasons of professional hockey experience under their belt?
Well, I think junior, there's such an age difference, I find, from a rookie in junior hockey. I mean, listen, there's big age gaps in the NHL too, but I just think from that maturity level, like you have a 16-year-old coming into the OHL, right? That's like so young. And these kids are like moving away from home and they're being billeted. So between 16 and 20, I think that's like a really big age difference. 16, you're like, you know, this little kid coming that's really frightened. Yeah, they really are. And then, you know, 20-year-old, like you mature a lot from the ages of 16 to 20. And so I think that's a big difference. And I think also at the OHL level, you have obviously very serious and very talented hockey players, but they're all at very different stages. Mm-hmm. So you could have a 20-year-old that is like done hockey, like after, you know, if they're not drafted to the NHL or that is not going to play out for them, you know, it's hard, like they're kind of done. And so you see such different things in the OHL, you know, at 18, the middle stage. So you got the rookies coming in that are afraid, and you got the 18-year-olds that are in an NHL draft year. And then you have some that are 19, 20 that have signed an NHL contract, and some that know it's kind of the end of the road for them. And they're trying to figure out, like, what does life look like after junior hockey? So you have really a lot of different things going on, and it can be interesting dynamic at the OHL level. Whereas at the NHL level, you know, that's it. Like there is one direction, whether you're, you know, an 18, 19, 20-year-old or a 30-year-old, like, this is it for them. It's everything. And they're all kind of pursuing successful NHL careers. So that's a big difference between the two.
I kind of think that, you know, from that explanation, there's sort of three sort of, you know, groupings of, you know, of mindsets from those players. You know, you've got the first year players whose mindset is how do I get past season? How do I get past season one and stay on the roster? Aside from, you know, maybe the first or second round picks from that year's OHL draft. Yeah. Then you have, you know, the players who are second year, third year, and their mindset is, okay, well, how can I get to the next level, whether it's NHL, AHL, maybe somewhere over in Europe. And then, you know, you have a certain number of guys who could be like, well, what's life like and after hockey? And, you know, for some that can be a life altering transition because that's all they've ever known since that since they first strapped on the pair of skates. That I think is the hardest, because there's a lot of serious options that they have to go over, whether it's, okay, do I want to stay, do I want to enact my scholarship resources and pursue youth sports, which seems to be a more popular option nowadays given the quality of the league, or do I go risk it in Europe and try it out, but with the chance that this may not work out, based on how they perceive me as a player, or I'm hanging up my skates altogether. Where do I go from here? So it must be a tough balance for you to at least prepare those players for realities that people who haven't been in junior hockey, haven't taken a step in junior hockey yet, would look at this and think that's the craziest thing in the world to even consider at age 20 or 21, when typically you'd be either have a year of university under your belt, or if you took a gap year, you'd be in your first year of university.
Yep. It is. And they struggle, a lot of them, and some of them it's an easy decision. I'm going to go play university hockey, but some of them really do struggle with it, and they're just kind of lost. So it's about, just supporting them and looking at different options and, talking through those things. So it's a big transition.
Yeah. And I think those groups of students, Will, that you were just talking about, really relate back to our listeners, as the majority of our listeners are students. And it looks like things are going to get back to some sort of normality,
Fingers
for
crossed,
the upcoming,
for God's sake.
Yes, for the upcoming year. So would you be able to share a few ways that students can stay mentally sharp to ensure that they're making the most out of their year as we head closer to September and possibly some in-person classes throughout the year?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I probably would say to that is, for all of you guys, I just call it permission to transition, because it has been, such a year. And it's funny because, I know even for me, as much as I miss human connection and I'm all about people, it was, I remember when they first started talking about opening up, I thought, oh my God, like I have to get back to I got so used to doing this. Like I have to talk to people now,
Yeah.
It was weird. Like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm ready for this. So permission to transition, whatever your experience has been like, whatever you might go through, I think it's a transition period for everybody. And as long as you give yourself a little bit of grace for that. So just to all students, if you're struggling or something seems weird and it wasn't before and it is now, and you're anxious or whatever it is you're experiencing, it's okay. Give yourself a little bit of grace and just use that little tagline, like, I'm giving myself permission to transition, because over time you will get used to it. The same way we adapted to COVID, you can think, if anybody had ever told us before COVID started, this is what the next year and a half of life, this pandemic is going to come take over the world and you're going to be stuck at home and there will be no schools and no stores and no restaurants, like, we would have thought, like, there's no way we could survive this. I even remember my kids, we were about a month in and one of my sons said to me, I'm going out. I'm like, you're not going anywhere. He's like, I'm going out. I can't take it anymore. Like, I don't know. Right. But yet somehow we all survived it. Mm-hmm. So give yourself that grace and allow yourself to transition. Whatever you're going through, it's okay. You don't have to fight against it. I find when we fight against that stuff or our emotions, it kind of will own you. So if you're anxious or if you're nervous, excited, like whatever you're feeling, honestly, just like, I'm noticing that I'm feeling this because of this. And if you allow it to flow in, it will flow out. And like we kind of talked about, trust yourself in the beginning, right? We talked about that. You will figure it out. And in time, you will transition and it will get better. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would say right now. The next thing I might say is just prepare. Like anything that you can do right now to prepare, like what could I put in place so that my transition when school or classes starts is a little bit easier. Whatever you can get organized and prepared now, do that, because it'll just make everything a lot easier. And then, you know, once you're in school, I kind of use this tagline with my athletes. I always tell them, if you want a winning mind and you want a winning game, then we use this win statement, which stands for what's important now. So on any given day, you know, it's really just, it kind of grounds you back to the present. What's important now, whatever it is you're going through. You know, we can get overwhelmed, we get stressed out, but just stop for a second, take a deep breath and say, what's important now? And, you know, I think it just is very grounding, helps you to figure it out, identify what the key factors and important issues are in that moment. And then you can now strategize to figure out what to do with it. And just, you know, a couple final tips. I think I always tell students to just like time block your schedule. I talk a lot about how to win a day. So every morning, I mean, it's something that I do too. In the morning, I literally, what are the tasks and goals that I need to accomplish today? And then I identify, like I brainstorm a list, what's the non-negotiables? Like what's something, those get a star that actually have to be done. And then I will time block it into my schedule. Like if I have an appointment here, for you guys, it'll be, okay, well, I have class, but I have this big exam coming up or this project to work on. So I would time block it and literally schedule your study time in your schedule, plan it out, and then literally just follow your schedule.
If any of our listeners, you know, didn't care for the first five questions, this last question is unbelievable knowledge to take into this year. I tell you, if you want to set yourself up for success for this year, just listen to this, because there's a plethora of information that you can take from this, and just to add on to it, you know, as you're going through that transition period, you know, this is a strategy that I guess I like to use is, you know, think of a week. There's 7 days. There's 7 days in a week. And, you know, I try to go by the phrase, win the week. You know, you can have, you know, every day is not going to be perfect, but, you know, try to have at least 4 days that you can look back on and say, yeah, that was a good day. I accomplished something. If you had a bad day, that's okay. No one's perfect. It's only natural that those days come up, especially now, you know, when this COVID crap is driving everyone up the wall. As long as, you know, at least try to commit to having a minimum of 4 good days, then you know, I tend to think that, you know, it's worked well for me, and, you know, it might work well for you. And if you don't have those 4 good days, if you have 3 or 2 or 1 or none, and you need to take a break, do it. It's all part of that transition period you were talking about. And if you need to take that break, take it and try to win the next week, you know. But
that's a really great statement. And just one thing that I know really helped me, I heard somebody say one day, is just try to make yourself 1% better every day. Whether that's,
I think I said that.
Was that you? It was either you or the other woman or the other lady on the speaker series. But that was really something that I took away from that night, was just make yourself 1% better every day. Whether that be like the smallest thing, like if that means for you, like getting outside for a walk for 10 minutes, like you're making yourself 1% better for getting out there and getting some fresh air and clearing your mind. Like 1% for everybody is going to look different. So whatever that may be for you, just try to do one thing for yourself every day to make you feel good. And I can promise you'll feel better.
Yeah. And you guys are so right. I mean, we all forget the human factor, just the nature of being human. And It's kind of, you know, the cost you pay to any great life. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be hard days. And instead, you don't necessarily even have to fight it. Like, just acknowledge it and come back to, okay, what's important now? Like, if I'm burnt out, then yes, what's important is to give myself a break. Or it's important that I just need to get out for a walk, that I can keep getting I can give 1%, right? Like, what can I do in that 1%? And yeah, it adds up. It's the compound effect, because 1%, 1%, 1%, and it, you know, little by little, a little starts to become a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% right there. Well, Brenley, I think it's a good time to bring this episode to a close. But before we go, I was thinking about this feature for a while, and you know, I thought, why not keep it for the sake of tradition? We've done this for the past 3 years on the SPIMA Council podcast. As is tradition, you know, we usually like to give the guests the floor to, I guess, say what's on their mind, see maybe what's going on, right now, or some closing thoughts that they may have not had a chance to say, but would like to get off your chest. So, Brenley, thank you so much for joining us for this premiere, and the floor is yours.
My pleasure. What do I want to say? Well, I think really it's just a message to all of you guys that I think I'm going to go with the word limitless. I think as human beings, we are limitless. You know, I will say, when I was a little girl who had a passion for the game of hockey, and I think I told the story at the speakers night, but in grade 1, my teacher asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I was so excited. I jumped up to the class and I told everybody that I wanted to be in the NHL, and everybody laughed at me, and my excitement quickly faded, and I was embarrassed, and they giggled and chuckled, and, you know, they pointed their finger at me. They said, well, you can't be in the NHL, you're a girl. And, you know, fast forward, I'm going into my 4th season in the NHL. And I guess that's just my message to all of you, is that we are capable as human beings of doing so much more than we think we can. The theme for your year is maximizing mindset. And I will tell you, it's our mindset that usually is what stops us more than anything else. I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes. The one that says they can and the one that says they can't are both usually right. So I just want everybody to know that doesn't mean it doesn't come with struggle. It does. But if you keep at it, you stay consistent, you do the 1% thing, you trust yourself to figure it out. You figure out what's important in that moment, and maybe it's, I need to get skills, I need to do this, I need to do that, and you stick with it and you believe that you can get there, then you'll get there. So chase your dreams, don't be afraid to fail. It's actually part of the process towards success, and just go for it.
Brenley, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Brenley.